Friends, I stand before you in all humility, representing the world of science, the scientific fraternity. People say this is the age of science, this is the age of technology, and I'm a child of that age. In the last few centuries, perhaps 5 centuries, the arrival of science in its modern form has really changed the world like never before. All what we see around ourselves, I'm talking to this microphone, everything has been transformed by science, we must admit that. Amazing developments in every field. Human, through inquiry and explorations, have given birth to new knowledge and consequent and concomitant technologies, and the world has changed. But as a scientist, when I look back to the last century, I see that the 20th century, the last century, has been the bloodiest century in the history of humanity. We saw so many wars right from the beginning. World War I, World War II, Cold War, Korean War, Vietnam War, so many wars, Yugoslav War. Weapons of mass destruction being invented. In fact, science itself came about, many inventions came about through the war itself. Of course, science has also brought great prosperity to the whole humanity, we must admit that too. Prosperity, wealth, not uniformly, but large sections of society. And what I see in the 21st century, when I look at different facets of science, what we have seen in the last centuries is only tip of the iceberg. Several fascinating discoveries, inventions, creations, innovations, technologies, and they promise the transformation of the world. But they also are pregnant with the possibilities that a dark future, that whether the humanity will exist in the 21st century at all. This question was asked Martin Rees, the president of the Royal Society of London, Professor Martin Rees. He said, friends, this may be the last century for the entire humanity. And of course, he was giving many causes. And one of the causes is that the violence against nature, not the violence of man against man, but the violence against nature, and the consequences of that, what we call global warming, and many people are talking about it, this one. Nobel Prizes were given in the name of this. The climate change, we may not exist at all. Now this question has come. I really tried to raise this question, Karthikeyanji, in the recent conference in Washington, led by Mr. Kapil Sibal and the Secretary of State from the US, that we are gathering together all the presidents of the great universities of the world, Oxford, Cambridge, Stanford, Berkeley, many universities of the world, and such great people and such great universities. And why have we come to this conclusion? That we don't know that we will exist. Our education, our science, technologies, new knowledge we have created, where has it gone? That we have to ask this question, we are somewhere wrong totally. And because perhaps our education is not complete. I'm not saying that it is all science has done. We have a fragmented knowledge of the reality. Our education is not complete. And when I was reading Sirshree's book, that we could educate the head, but we could not educate the heart. We could not discover the science of compassion. We are passionate about science. There is something totally wrong. And I see the message, one thing which I've been trying to advocate, that this is the time we have to bring the synthesis of science and spirituality together for the service of humanity. I have understood every aspect I want to understand of the cosmos, of the world, of the materials, of the atoms, everything within the atom. But I'd never asked the question, who am I? The question which was asked this year. And Sirshree has asked this question again. who am I? What is the purpose of my life? I never asked that question. What is the purpose of this universe at all? So since we have not asked these fundamental questions and try to understand the fundamental nature of the reality, I think we are somewhere wrong totally. But I feel that I also recall at this moment that when the new century was starting, the new millennium was starting, we talked about the United Nations rose again. I said, let's declare the first decade as the decade of world peace for children at that time. Many Nobel laureates, 70 Nobel laureates signed, 75 million people signed that declaration. But the peace eludes us. There is something wrong. But it doesn't matter, as John F. Kennedy said, it doesn't matter. Our greatness lies not in never falling, but rising again every time we fall. So we again rise here, and the movement begins. The peace movement begins again from this city, in many, many cities. And this time, Sirshree, a spiritual person, also a scientist and electronics engineer, I think he has received in life itself that synthesis, is giving that call. And I see a hope. Hope through the synthesis of science and spiritual. Hope of synthesis of head and heart and giving a new education to mankind. I represent that. I want to participate in this. I want to celebrate peace. The flagging of this, new movement, new festival of peace on 10/10/10. We will be giving this message to the entire world because the feast must be celebrated. In the Vedic times, every mantra begins with, the call for peace. I think this is the message India has to give to the world. India can give to the world by living the message of peace. The great apostles of peace have been in this land. Great religions, the messages have come from message of peace and happiness because we are not understood. I think as a science, I would say, I have not understood the science of peace and I am not able to preach that. I want to discover that through the great gurus like Sirshree. Thank you very much.
इस वीडियो को लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें। साथ ही अपने अभिप्राय हमें कमेंट करके जरूर बताएं। हैप्पी थॉट्स तेजज्ञान और सर्श्री तेजज्ञान चैनल को आज ही सब्सक्राइब करें और लेटेस्ट अपडेट्स सबसे पहले पाने के लिए बेल आइकन को दबाएं। धन्यवाद।